Alright, this is going to be a weekly pessimist episode.
Oh, hell yes.
Is this switching to ROTC?
Yeah, Totally different.
Totally different vibe.
Totally different. Totally different vibe. It's so much different than 40 Minutes of Hell.
So much different.
Meaning we talk more specifically about it.
Yeah.
That's it. You know what? That's good enough of an intro. That'll be the intro.
That'll be the intro. Yes.
Yep, everyone.
And we are live.
We are live. Hello, I'm your friend Joseph Craven here on the Weekly Pessimist presented by whatever podcast. It doesn't really matter.
Same time next week.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
All right, well, I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Weekly
There we
Pessimist.
go.
I'm joined by Ro Hunter and Craig Watson, whose last name I now know and can remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are known.
You are known, my
You are
friend.
known.
Recording on the road back from our beloved Stark Vegas, Mississippi, after a disappointing loss to the Ole Miss Rebels in basketball. Just going to get a reaction episode in here while we can, before we drive ourselves insane thinking about this game. But first and foremost, and maybe the most important thing as we're on the road here, you guys have like a go-to road trip snack? Like you stop by the gas station. Most likely you stop by the Junction in Lousiville on Highway 25.
Oh, yeah.
What's your go-to road trip snack?
Well, when I stop at the metropolitan known as Louisville, Mississippi, I usually get, I didn't get any this time because I'm not that hungry, but I usually get some Chex Mix cheddar. That's usually my go-to. I will always do that. I love it. It tastes all the cheesy cheddariness and all the pretzels and Chex that goes into it. I should have stopped and got some.
It's a cornucopia of cheddar goodness.
Great word.
Thank you.
Great description too.
Thank you. Wow.
So if I'm feeling cheddar, I will go with the Munchies.
Oh, that's a
Cheddar
classic.
mix or cheese mix. But today I was really wanting some Reese's Pieces.
Okay.
But they didn't have any, so I was pretty upset about that. Went peanut M&Ms and Snickers instead, eating my feelings on the ride home.
My feelings.
I'm shocked that you have that ability in you, considering you and I just threw down the freshman 15 burger and Bulldog burger.
Did y'all both eat all of the burger?
Well, I ate all but 2 bites with a plate. I ate all of that plank of cheese.
Oh my god!
I ate all of the burger. I gave the last bit of cheese to Chandler as payment for him being my new overlord because Ole Miss defeated Mississippi State. That's how that works, right?
That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Give your cheese to your overlord.
All your cheese belongs to me.
Yeah, those are the rules.
Bend the knee and give your cheese.
I'm a big fan of bugles on road trips.
Okay, that's a classic.
Bugles are things I pretty much only eat if I'm driving somewhere. I'm gonna eat some bugles. Beef jerky, of course, is one of those things that pretty much only.
Yeah.
But one of the things I like to do is get a weird combination of things that will probably really hurt me when I eat it, and then I'll regret having eaten it in the car. I just got a cup of coffee this time around because I wanted a nice warm cup of coffee. But I noticed they had packaged up summer sausages at the register.
Yeah, they did. That was strange.
Yeah, and there was a part of me that's like, oh God, I want to get a summer, walk up there, put the cup of coffee down. She'd be like, is this it?
Yeah.
Be like, yeah, this is it. You know what?
Give me a thing of
Let me get this summer sausage, just to see how she would react more than anything. I don't know if I would eat that.
Yeah, that would probably be the least surprising combination she had seen today.
That
Probably
is
so.
so true.
You know that there's got to be at least 4 people a day that pull through the Junction convenience store service station in Louisville and see the summer sausage and just go, oh, you know what? Add a summer sausage to my total, please. Got to be. Bare minimum 4.
Well, I tell you, the Junction's going to owe you guys some advertising.
Welcome
dollars
to
as many
the
times.
Weekly Pessimist, as always, brought to you by the Junction.
Yeah.
In Louisville.
Mississippi. Right there at the 4-way stop. You can't
Get
miss
your
it.
summer sausage
Get your summer
on
sausage.
your way through.
While you're thinking of
The only
winter,
bathroom between here and Jackson.
While you're thinking of pooping,
Yeah.
here's some summer
Here's
sausage.
your summer sausage.
Here's some
Summer sausage to go with your coffee.
Really get your mind right when it comes to your pooping situation.
Boy, that's when you know you're not feeling. That's when you know you're down. Is when you're getting your coffee, your summer sausage, your Mellow Yellow, and your Snickers and What did I get? Peanut M&Ms.
Peanut M&Ms.
Yeah. 'Cause we don't need these things.
No.
We're eating our feelings. 'Cause
Yeah.
We're not happy.
Exactly.
We're pessimistic.
If they had just a big old 16-ounce can of Surge in there, I would have gotten it.
Yeah.
Would have.
Or a Fresca. 'Cause those are gross.
I saw a pretty appetizing little RC Cola in there that I decided against in favor of.
Hey,
Yeah.
RC Cola Moon Pies. We used to have a football coach way back say, all y'all want to do is go ride around, drink RC Cola, and eat moon pies. It's like, what?
What?
What does that mean? Okay.
What kind of
guess.
childhood did you have, Coach?
I guess that's what we want to do. I don't.
What?
That
Did
sounds
your coach
weird.
grow up in the 30s?
Yeah, yes. That guy did.
Down
Dang
here,
gummit, he would always say.
back when I was living through the Great Depression.
All y'all want to run around and drink RC Cola and eat moon pies.
I love it. God, I love it. My basketball coach used to tell me all sorts of things like, what is it? Your attitude more than your aptitude determines your altitude.
Oh,
He loved that. That was a good one.
Oh,
But my
yeah.
personal favorite he liked to drop on us was, you don't act right, you get smacked right. And that,
That is illegal.
not in
That
the,
is
hey,
child endangerment.
not in the MPSA.
No, obviously not.
MPSA, the best referee in the MPSA had one eye and one glass eye.
I believe you.
That sounds.
Not even kidding. His name was Fish.
I believe you.
Yep.
I believe everything you just said.
Yep, his name was Fish. He was a nice guy. As the ball was being brought up the court, he would walk over and chat with people in the stands, and then turn around and start officiating the game again once they'd crossed half court. and he was commonly considered to be the best basketball official in the Mississippi Private School Association.
Called it as he saw it.
As he saw it.
Called it if he saw it. Yeah. Oh man.
Speaking of calling it as you see.
Yeah. Speaking of a poop situation, like we were earlier, Ole Miss, of course, defeats the formerly ranked 14th Bulldogs. What was it? 81-77 final score. After Mississippi State opened up at least a couple of decent-sized leads, both in the first half and the second half, only to see those leads dwindle down. We're winning at halftime, ended up losing in the second half, of course. Strong performances by some players such as Lamar Peters did pretty well.
Yeah.
Nick Weatherspoon looked good out there. I thought we had a great second half out of Abdullah Due.
Reggie Perry off the bench.
Reggie
unbelievable.
Perry and Robert Woodard had themselves a heck of a first half, and we'll talk in detail about all of that. But at the end of the day, not enough, and especially shooting woes, definitely impairing Mississippi State's performance in this game. But what's the major takeaway you think, Ro, when you look at how the game went down? I mean, you think Ole Miss just got? I mean, Ole Miss did get hot. They had the one player. Hinson, I guess is his last name.
Yeah, Hinson.
Number 0.
Ooh, there's
Hinson.
a deer. Ah!
Hinson, the shimmier.
Shimmy.
Mr. Shimmy, Mr.
Oh,
Shake.
the Shimmygate 2019. Shimmygate 2019 investigation. I want an investigation done on that shimmy and why it wasn't immediately called for a technical.
Ooh, weird snort noise. Unintentional on my part. Anyway, Rob, what you
My
got?
takeaway of it was, who is Eric Holman and where was he? That's my takeaway. I think before the game we predicted on another podcast. We predicted that if Eric Holman shows up and averages gets about 20 points and maybe 10 boards, then this isn't a contest.
Well, what's his average right now is what, about 15 points, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
He scores around that clip, one of the top scorers on the team. But I think one of the things we really talked about was the fact that Ole Miss down low really should not have had anyone that could contain him or Abdullah Due.
I feel like, and again, I'm wildly depressed right now, so I feel like he just didn't try. And I know I shouldn't say that, but the amount of offensive rebounds that Ole Miss got, especially in the second half,
chance points.
Yeah, second chance points. It's like, dude, and some of we all saw the game. Some of those rebounds and shots off the rim or backboard or whatever had weird hops. But at the same time, though, like, I just felt that he, of anybody on our team, it was such a below average performance for him in all facets of the game.
Very much so.
Lack of communication, lack of intensity on both sides, missing open shots. There are several 3-pointers or just mid-range shots that he normally does. And where he would try and create his own shot by doing that turnaround Kobe fadeaway thing right there at the baseline. And I think that goes in for him normally, but this game that just shot wasn't there for whatever reason, and he never adjusted to that. He never did anything else. So that's my biggest takeaway from this. I think Ole Miss played very well as they could. They played really intense defense, and they shot the ball really well. I mean, like when you go, like I think midway through the second quarter, I pointed to the stats or whatever, and I was like, it's kind of hard to win when you go 4 for 20 from 3-pointers, and you look at the other team and they're like 10 for whatever it was. 10 for 20 at the time.
Yeah, I think at that point MSU had more field goals made and attempted and all of that, but then Ole Miss just happened to have 11 or 12 of their shots being 3-pointers.
Yeah,
and that was the difference in making it just a slight lead for the Rebels. So it was it was weird. And defensively speaking, I feel like Ole Miss clamped down a lot, but there also became a point in the second half where maybe Mississippi State just stopped moving the ball.
Yeah.
And kind of went with this ISO ball type of play. That it went from being very, very good dribble penetration, baseline cuts, feed the baseline, it's a layup. That happened several times and Ole Miss was not able to stop it.
One of the things I noticed too about just the way the offense went, especially towards the second half.
Yeah.
We get into this habit, it looks like I see it every game, and sometimes it works out for us, sometimes it doesn't. We get into this habit of a high screen pick and roll up at the top of the key, and instead of the actual roll part where you do the pick and then the big man rolls towards the basket or rolls
as per the definition
of the pick and roll. It seems like we're setting that up, but a good team, a good defensive team, any team could read that and say 9 times out of 10 they don't actually give it to the big man on the roll, so just stay with the guard. And that's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah.
Almost every offensive possession, and then we would, like you were saying, it's ISO ball, or that's what the man behind us would call selfish basketball. The man sitting behind us, and we were flat-footed.
Yeah,
phenomenal term.
Our biggest problem tonight.
Flat-footed.
They were sitting around being flat-footed.
I wanted to see a little bit more tap dancing. I wanted to see a little bit more arch in their steps. You know what I mean?
They're just out there being flat-footed.
They're just out there flat-footed. That's all they are, flat-footed.
All right, going to basketball games in the Deep South, in football country, we see some of the best fans. What are some of the best things you think you've ever heard, at a sporting event that you just knew, you're oh my God, this guy does not understand this sport and he's going for it. Well, this isn't direct. I'll let you think about it. This isn't directly my answer, but there was one good. There was this older man that we used to see at a lot of Mississippi State baseball games, who would always just kind of blurt out this it sounded like Farmer Fran from The Water Boy a little bit. Someone would be out there and he'd be get at you, freshman, yo. And we're I don't know. I guess he just assumed everyone was a freshman, maybe, or maybe he just knew he could target the freshmen. But we just distinctly remember him always calling out the freshman. Swing at you, freshman. Anyway, I just remember that guy.
So this isn't exactly, it's not at all basketball, but I have to share this story. One year, I have season tickets to football, and one year there was this woman sitting behind us, and this was under Dan Mullen. We were running the spread offense, of course, and Dak would get out there and set up the offense and then look to the sidelines, as they do, to get the play.
Yep.
Screamed from start to finish of the game, every game, snap the ball, what are you doing, the clock's running out, every game. And you could try to explain to that woman that they don't huddle, they get up there set at the ball, look at the defense, and then get the play from the sideline.
Yep.
She could never grasp that concept.
Nope.
So every single game for the entire season, she just screamed and worried about them being in formation and not snapping the ball.
Yeah, you cannot explain anything
No.
to like your average sports fan. It's wonderful. I love being around people that just clearly do not understand the sport, but they're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And like you can't explain it to them, they will not get it. But like you feel the urge to do it still. Like
Yeah,
what kind of idiots are we to still want to engage with them?
That was my thought that I was having when you asked the question of what Deep South watching basketball, sport, and everything. It's the fan or the person. I've done it before too, where you're watching the game and it's a close game or it's just not going in your favor, and so you'll become like the player who has the ball at the time, and so it doesn't matter what you're thinking like them, and so you'll say, "Pass the ball," as they take a shot, and then they make the shot, and you go, "Okay, all right,
That's good too.
That I hear that every game.
Yeah.
You're thinking about holding that PlayStation controller in your hand and being
Yes.
like, I'm pounding on X.
They'll
X,
take-
no, not square.
They'll take the shot and you'll say no, and then it'll sink. And you're like,
Sink.
good.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
like all the tension that you built up and anger and
Yes.
frustration, it's just okay. Well, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine now.
Yep. I love it. We're talking about anything to distract ourselves, I feel like, from the actual game.
100%. I know
Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah, what boggles my mind a lot about this particular performance is that, as you were saying, like at some points, like the ball movement stops. We go from doing the nice baseline cutting, dribble penetration, feed the baseline, all of that. We just get away from that to all of a sudden we maybe dribble a little bit, but like we never pass the ball, and then someone puts up a mid-range jump shot, like lazy offensive maneuvering, and it did us in. It did Auburn in against Ole Miss earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Auburn got a little bit rattled,
Yep.
and Ole Miss took advantage of it. So Ole Miss gets the ball, moves the ball around, has good movement on offense. Auburn gets the ball, dribbles past half court, and just hurls up a shot. Like no movement, no passing, anything. Mississippi State slipped into that in this game. It was very frustrating, to say the least. You know.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things we kind of talked about, and I'll float this out there for y'all to hit on as well, but this team seems to show, for as talented as they are, too talented probably to keep this skid going. We'll probably rebound, pretty soon, you would think. But as talented as they are, they seem to have a lot of mental fragility.
Oh, yeah. Very
Like-
emotional.
Yeah, they get hit hard, they get punched in the mouth by the other team in some sort of way, such as tonight. It was pretty much actually physically punched in the mouth, it seemed like occasionally, and they don't know how to respond to that, and they don't respond well, and they seem to collapse. Does that seem like a fair assessment of at least the past couple of games, how to open SEC play? I don't know.
I gotta tell you, I don't know how much I personally agree with that. I do think Peters is a very emotional player.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can be seen pretty clearly, but also I just think he's passionate. I shouldn't say emotional. I think he's passionate. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that.
No, I love a passionate player.
Yeah.
Charles Rhodes is one of my favorite players
Yeah,
of all time.
absolutely.
Chuck.
My
I
Facebook
think,
friend Charles Rhodes.
I think Q. I don't think he's too terribly, going to tilt too emotionally one way or the other.
No.
So I don't necessarily think, the point you were making about Eric Holman earlier. He had 8 points and 4 rebounds, and
Right.
that really hurt. So he seemed to be lagging somewhere, and whether that was
against one of the
emotional
least
or not.
impressive front courts,
Yeah.
in college basketball right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but as far as adversity, I don't know. I think back on this team because they are veterans. At times when I've seen Lamar Peters and Q Weatherspoon step up, and even Tyson Carter and things like that. So I don't know. It's just, you were just mentioning they've got so much talent, and I said it immediately after the game. Like I think they've got so much talent and depth that they're going to rebound. It's just a really tough loss early in the season. I really hope that. But to your point, they are going to have to show some mental toughness, especially 2 back-to-back losses to open the SEC season. But if you're going to show it, I think having a veteran team
Yeah.
is the team that's going to have to do it. It's going to be the one to do it.
I'm both and on this because I think one of the reasons it looks like mental instability or fragility or whatever, that they're mentally ill.
Yeah, they crave straight up mentally ill.
It feels like a bipolar team right now, but I think one of the reasons that it looks like that is because who is the established leader? Who's the guy? Who's the go-to? We have so many different ways to score, so many different ways, but who is the vocal person? And I think this year, especially when we're good, like when we're really good, it's Lamar Peters. Like over the first part of the season, the off-season or whatever, or non-conference play, that guy...
Yes, the off-season.
The off-season, yeah. That guy, this team goes as he goes, right?
Yeah.
But there isn't... So now we're in SEC play or whatever, and he had a decent game today, but it still seems like, well, who's the guy behind him? And you would assume Q, but Q's that... He's that guy who you can count on him. You know what he's going to do just about every game.
Yeah.
He has
Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable, the experienced veteran.
He's like who's the quiz trivia right here for Joseph on a Pelicans player who is the most average player in all of the NBA.
the NBA's most average player, Mr. Etuan Moore.
Mr. Etuan Moore, one of my favorite Pelicans players. I kind of feel like that's what Q is. Yeah, he gets the numbers and everything, and he leads our team in scoring.
Yeah.
But that's because it's a necessity. I don't look at him as like a go-to guy. Right there at the last 30 seconds of the game, we have a possession that should last the last 30 seconds of the game, and he takes a 37-foot three-point shot. Like he hasn't hit any of them that entire game, and I realize shoot, right? However, is that the smartest play when you're down 2 with 30 seconds to go? I'm going to go on a limb here and going to say no.
Right, yeah.
Right, and so it's like we need that kind of actual leader.
But
like a vocal leader, you mean?
Yeah, like a hype man, like a I don't know. I'm trying to.
But I'm going to say, that's abnormal for him because he's also hit the clutch game
he has
multiple times.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a little easier for us to say, okay, yes, that wasn't a great shot, but who knows what was going through his head.
He doesn't. I think for him, like you pointed out a minute ago, he is even kill. Like, I mean, I hate to say it like that, but he's never either so hard and passionate. At least it doesn't show on the court. Maybe it's different in practice, obviously, but like, he doesn't. It doesn't feel like he has that killer instinct. Like Lamar Peters is going to kill you. He's going to cross you up and make you look like a fool, which he did to several of his players tonight.
But I feel like Lamar Peters also has the ability to kill his own team.
Yeah, exactly. That's
at least he had maybe up until this year.
Yeah, and that's how Q does it differently. Q kills the other team by consistently getting to the free throw strike over and over and over and over.
And by doing just a little bit of everything.
Points.
He's going to get a few rebounds, he's going to dish a few assists, he's going to draw some fouls, and most of the time he's going to hit a 3 or 2.
Yeah, and in those clutch situations, like he will usually, or he's come through enough times for me to say that's your guy.
That's the dude that you want in the ball. And then with the last possession, last shot, you do
like today. It was like one of those days you're like, oh, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But still, like if it's tomorrow, I still say, give him the ball.
Yeah.
Now if it's him or Lamar Peters, 50-50. Honestly,
Sure.
Like I'm okay either way.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that part in particular because Lamar has seemed to be like trying to establish himself as like I am the best player on this team so far this season. Like I still think that Q is the best player on the team, just all around player. I love everything he does and he does it well. And I do still think that he is the leader on the team in that regard. But you're absolutely right. He's not a vocal leader. No, Lamar is definitely a more vocal person, and I think that's why you need them both, and you need them both to work together.
Yeah.
It just happens to be that today and against South Carolina were both weirdly off games for Q Weatherspoon.
Yeah.
Like he had South Carolina. I mean, he had, and tonight. I mean, he had a couple of shots right at the rim. I mean, layups basically that just would not fall, and it just was uncharacteristic for him.
Yet he was still the leading scorer.
Yes.
He had 18 points.
Yeah. Exactly. So he's still hitting his average. I mean, I think he's still averaging about 17 a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's two uncharacteristic games for him. And that makes me wonder if moving forward, the moment that he kind of gets out of this quote-unquote slump, 18-point slump,
18-point
exactly, yeah.
slump.
if that's the turning point in the conference slate where the team becomes a top 15 a team once again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
It's a weird start to conference for sure.
Well, all right, so here's the other question that we touched on a minute ago.
Uh-huh.
Like, Robert Woodard, Reggie Perry.
Yeah.
Looked like grown-ass men tonight.
Yep.
Like, absolute dominating
Really
force.
promising to see them.
Both of them made great decisions on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Hustle,
In
like
the first half.
physical players too, and they're both huge.
And
Yes.
they made really well-timed dominant plays.
Yes.
I felt like when you needed those big plays from those freshmen, stepped up and made them.
Yeah, well, and
Really
because
important bench minutes.
Mississippi State is better than Ole Miss in depth right now this season, and they were the examples of that. And when they were in that stretch in the first half where they jumped in and did so well is when Mississippi State opened up their biggest lead of the first
Right.
half.
At what point in the season, or do you think this will be a controversy? This is always, it's like this every year, but like, at what point do you start, switching things up on your starting roster?
Mhm.
I mean, it was so evident, and we saw it in the second half of who they finished the game with. It's like, I think Perry was out there.
Perry was out there instead of Holman for a good chunk of the very
For a
end of the
good
game.
chunk of the second half, yeah. And so, do we start seeing more of that? And then if we do, is that a cause for concern? All that kind of stuff. I don't like. I mean, obviously it's just conjecture. I think we still are. I think our best option is still our starting five. But
Yeah.
at what point, though, when the game isn't going well? Because the other thought that I was having too is that it seems like Ole Miss switching things up on defense that got us off of our offensive rhythm because we were in especially when we got that 10 or 12 point lead. It was working very, very well, and then they switched to maybe some type of zone or I can't remember exactly. I'd have to go back and watch, but it's as if they went from man to man, and then they did some sort of just guard zone, and the bigs down low stayed with their men or
Right.
something like that, and it just got us all out of whack. We stopped communicating, we stopped passing the ball, and that's when we started in the ISO, and then the Ole Miss adjusted. And they went back to man-to-man, and then we tried to adjust to that a little bit. But it's as if when that happens, we lose all ability to think through the problem in that moment. It's like, we have to stick to what we're doing, this high-screen pick and roll. We stopped doing the cuts to the baseline,
Right.
or from baseline out, or whatever.
Yeah, did none of those anymore. It's like, okay, so when we have those runs, we're 10 to 12 points or whatever, in the lead with the freshmen in there, at what point in the season, or when would Ben Hallen make that decision? Well, I think today, if I had to conjecture as well, I think today showed that he's a little bit more willing to give them some more significant minutes.
Yeah.
Reggie Perry, of course, had one of the worst games that I've ever seen against South Carolina.
That's so true.
And it was, in fact, his presence on the court is one of the things that killed Mississippi State in the first half against South Carolina. So he was looking to rebound from that to prove himself today. And I think that, he did well enough, and I think you saw Hallen being willing to bench an ice-cold Eric Holman towards the end of the game in favor of a more physical Reggie Perry because he thought it'd be a better chance. And I think that opens the door for more playing time. But Hallen's not the type of guy who's going to bench one of his, seniors.
Seniors, yeah.
In order to, if he does well enough, I think it shows that, or it shows Hallen that he can feel the free to maybe go with a smaller lineup and put Eric at the 5, bring Abdul Adu off the bench, and have Perry start at the 4 spot.
Yeah, that seems like a good option.
If it's a good matchup, then I think Hallen knows he has that option now that Perry is rising to the occasion. I don't think you're going to see Woodard get too much PT quite yet until, I don't think, and I said this to Craig in the middle of the game, but I don't think you're going to see Woodard get too much PT when Q is still on the team.
Yeah.
When Q graduates next year, Woodard instant starter at that Q position.
The Q position.
The Q position.
A true do-it-all wing guard, all that. So I don't know. I think today might be opening the door a little bit to maybe Perry and Woodard seeing more of a crucial playing time role, as opposed to just sticking with Eric. I almost called him Perry again. That doesn't make sense. Eric and Adu as our only post players.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know. Howland doesn't really like to do a deep rotation.
He doesn't. He really doesn't.
I guess we go 8 guys. I
That's
mean,
about it.
there was no Keyshawn Fazell at any point.
No, there wasn't. Yeah.
None of that.
Keyshawn, no EJ Datcher.
No,
Well,
yeah. Haven't seen Datcher in
a hot minute.
yeah.
I mean, I saw him on the bench tonight. He was like
He was throwing down some huge dunks
At
in
halftime.
warm-up line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They went to the layup line, and he was like headbutting the rim. I didn't realize he had that sort of athleticism.
Hey, what's up, EJ?
But interesting. I don't know. Interesting stuff. Here's the question then, I guess, is looking forward. And Craig, you kind of said this earlier, but I mean, does this and the South Carolina game combined give you cause to worry moving forward, or do you feel like it's just that's basketball? Sometimes you have it's a game of runs. Sometimes you have that happen and you'll rebound.
I mean, I don't want to start SEC play 0-2.
Right.
So if I had to pick, certainly wouldn't want to start SEC play like this and don't want to lose to that team.
Right.
I'll go on record
Yeah.
as that.
Yeah.
I don't like losing to them.
Yep.
They're a garbage school.
They don't even
but-
like basketball.
You're right.
It's
Oh,
very-
I really like
They shouldn't
basketball.
even be playing. Anyway, no, but again, and I'm sure Ro will talk more about this. If you're going to lose, though, lose now,
Right.
okay, and not, come end of February.
You're right.
Rather lose now, and
Yeah.
so.
Get cold in the middle of the season and come back from it.
Right. And still, we lost a close one. The difference today was the 3-point shooting and the free throws. They shot free throws better. Yes, so I think, I'll go back to what I said a minute ago. I think we've got a veteran team. I think we have too much talent and too much good players to let this be the end-all, be-all from our season. Am I concerned? I don't think it's time to say the sky's falling just yet. From my,
You're not on that fire house.
I'm no way on the fire howling bandwagon. If you're
Can
on
you-
that bandwagon,
Can you really call yourself a Mississippi State fan if you're not on the fire, our coach?
yeah,
We lost on this
I'll
bandwagon.
go ahead and say it. No, if you're on that bandwagon right this second, you're out of your mind. Okay, I will go on record and say
Turn
that.
in your maroon.
Yes,
We're
Ben
done
Howland's a
with
good coach. You're out of your mind if you're on that bandwagon. So no, the sky's not falling just yet. Obviously, you'd like a better start, but it is what it is. I think we got plenty of time, and they will turn around. They're a good team. So the Weekly Pessimist podcast, I'm still finding some hope, and I loved the play from our freshman today. And again, didn't mention this, but Tyson Carter, when we talked about this during the game, he has been playing some solid
Yeah.
minutes this season
That's
so
so
far off the bench. Like
He had some
that
clutch
is,
points,
that
some
is
clutch steals,
yes,
man.
that is absolutely what you want out of basically your sixth man coming off the bench. I
Yep.
mean, that is 100% what you want. Just coming in, not missing a beat, and he comes in hot. Like he
Yes.
usually comes in and makes a bucket
His
almost
first
immediately.
shot, you could go back the last
Yes.
15 games. I don't know. I haven't seen him miss his first shot coming off the bench.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, and that's
amazing.
So that too gives me promise. So
Yeah, I mean, and the Bulldogs have been a good 3-point shooting team this
yes,
season.
yes,
And so to have them not really fall much, yeah, it brings back some terrible, scarring flashbacks from last year where the team was a terrible 3-point shooting team.
God, it was so bad.
But at the same time, it makes you realize, okay, well, this is maybe just a little bit of a bad shooting stretch. Get a couple games out of the way. Get back to business after this.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just...
What do you think, Ro? Sky falling yet or no?
No, of course not. You already said it. We are literally in the first week of January right now. I mean, Is it a cause for concern? Yes, of course it is, because your team lost to your rival, to the, as Craig aptly pointed out, the trash can of a school that was Ole Miss. So, like, of course, it's not ideal. However, this is basketball. It's like one of the things that I could, if I could sit down with every fan in our fan base and explain that, like, this isn't football. It's not quite baseball. It's somewhere in between. It's called basketball, where you, in order to get better at basketball, you have to, if you're bad or if you have, bad habits or whatever, it's not like you go after the game and start scoring 1,000 points or you start doing 1,000 free throws and hopefully you make half of them or something, and that'll then improve your free throw percentage or something. It doesn't work like that. It might have worked like that in the Bobby Knight era of college basketball, but this is a different...
The glory days.
This is a different generation, a different type of player. They got to work out the kinks. You see it. We can look at a great example right now in the NBA in the West is the Lakers. Right now, granted, they do have probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, basketball players on the planet in the history of all. Yeah, Lonzo Ball. Thank you. However,
that made me laugh too.
However,
because they were referring to LeBron.
Yeah, it's LeBron.
You see the joke.
Oh, yeah,
he got traded. I don't know if you knew. But no.
I feel like the listeners didn't fully appreciate the joke the way I did because I laughed way too much.
But in the
tweet at us. Let us know if you enjoyed the joke.
Hashtag the joke.
Hashtag the joke. Hashtag JokeGate 2019.
Hashtag it was that funny.
But was it though? Hashtag was it though?
But was it though?
But no, like even then, right? They start off the season with like this terrible, awful streak of losing games, trying to feel each other out. But then, midway through the season that we are in the NBA, the Lakers are sitting third in the West, which last year I think they finished 8th or something.
Yeah.
Like,
they were out of the playoffs.
Yeah, they were out of the playoffs. So yeah, they were like 10th or 11th.
They were about 11th.
Yeah. So it's very similar in that aspect too in college basketball. It's just that we don't have enough games as we do in the NBA, and so you only get a smaller percentage. But you look at this team, how they finished last year. They were so hot not because they all of a sudden learned how to shoot the basketball. They just figured it out.
Yeah.
And every year, even if it's the same players, every year the circumstances or the conditions are different. Every single year, new players, players come and go, transfer out, transfer in, whatever. Even if that core group, you still have to work it out. And I think this year, obviously, we've seen that because we went 12-1. In our non-conference play. I mean,
with the only loss being to a team that broke into the top 25 and then upset the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah. Like I have zero doubt that they'll figure it out. Probably before the end of next week. I imagine. I don't even know who we play next week, but
we have Florida on Tuesday.
And then whoever we play next Saturday. I imagine it will probably be back 2-2, and Chicken Little will just chill out, like the sky is not falling.
Right. One loss does not really hurt you as much as.
And we get to play this Shimmygate people later on this season. So
yeah, I will say this: like, if you watch the two teams play, one team certainly presented themselves better than the other.
That's the truth.
Yes. Per the usual.
Yeah, there's only one team. I don't know about usual. I do remember. Maybe not. I do remember some darker times, but in this particular matchup, and it even goes all the way up to the top. Like, I do like Kermit Davis a lot as a coach, and of course he is a former Mississippi State player, but he whined a lot, and Howland did not whine a lot when it came to talking to officials, and I thought that was interesting. That's just their demeanors. Kermit's a much more demonstrative person in general, but it even went up to the top of players take after coaches, and Howland is a tough-looking man.
Tough-looking man.
The Bulldogs definitely played a little bit more, with a little bit less
emotional reactivity.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. Yeah, I like doing podcasts with counselors.
In me.
We need to have both of you on the podcast every time.
Affect regulation.
Oh, speaking of which, make a shameless plug here. If you like listening to counselors talk about things that we don't know what we're talking about, listen to us talk about something that we do know what we're talking about. It's called The Same Time Next Week. Find us on iTunes. It's Craig and Roe talking about all sorts of things like
a little more in our wheelhouse.
a little more in our wheelhouse of things we feel a little
than
bit more
me
knowledgeable
commenting on a sport that I didn't play.
Yeah, I played maybe 4 quarters of high school basketball before my coach just set me down in the corner and said, "No, no more."
And I was the world's worst 10th man on one of the worst teams in Mississippi private school basketball history. So, there you go. There you go. Now, here's a fun little fact. I'm going to tell you guys this story on the air because I've never actually told it on the air, and I feel like I need to now. And this is how we'll wrap up this episode of The Weekly Pessimist. Yes. Earlier this year, at the private high school that I work for, they have a little internet, like, online streaming broadcast team, and they actually get hired to broadcast like all the private school tournaments and stuff. Like, they do a phenomenal job with it. So I happen to be running a sideline camera during a game, okay? And this is hearkening back to a reference made in the most recent episode of 40 Minutes of Hell, the basketball podcast that we do. And I briefly mentioned the worst referees, ever, okay? And so if you missed me talking about that, go listen to 40 Minutes of Hell. There's another plug.
Hell, dude, 2 plugs in one. Oh, man.
And don't forget about the Junction, located in Lousiville, Mississippi.
While you're listening to those 2 podcasts,
Eat your summer sausage.
Eat your summer
from
sausage
the Junction.
From the Junction.
That's where I always stop for roadside diarrhea.
Because there is nowhere else to go. So I'm running a sideline camera for this football game, all right, between 2 private schools in the division that has the worst referees in the world. And first play of the game, a quarterback snaps the ball, turns, fires a quick pass to the sidelines to a player who promptly gets blindsided in an obvious helmet-to-helmet hit. Any other division of football, that's targeting, because you could hear the helmets go kong, and the player that gets tackled is knocked unconscious and on the ground, and eventually has to be taken out of the game for concussion-like symptoms and does not return for the rest of the game. Okay? He happens to... but as it turns out, in that level of competition, there is no targeting or even helmet-to-helmet call, so there's no flag thrown. Okay? So there you go. That goes ahead and tells you what we're working with in the Mississippi private schools.
Just ear hold them, as we used to say.
Yeah, you just know it's run by a whole bunch of old white dudes who are like, that's the way the game should be played. You know, they give them leather helmets if they could. Yeah, flat-footed.
Give them leather pads,
yeah, exactly.
Helmets.
If they could, they'd do it.
Yeah.
All right, so that happens. So later in the game, the same thing happens to the other team's running back. He takes a helmet-to-helmet shot, and he stands up, takes 2 steps, falls over because he is out on his feet.
Concussed.
Yeah. He collects himself, he stands up, he walks off the field on his own accord. They take him out of the game just as a precaution. But again, no flag, because that's not a rule, okay? I get done with the broadcast. I go walking into the broadcast trailer, and they're replaying the first play of the game. And I've said, all right, what are we looking at here? They said, look at this. And they point. The player that made the tackle, the should have been illegal tackle,
right,
was not on the field when the ball was snapped. He was on the sidelines.
What?
He noticed he was supposed to be on the field because there were only 10 people. He was on the sidelines. As the ball is traveling from the center to the quarterback, he charges on the field. The quarterback, of course, throws it to what he thought was a wide-open wide receiver because there was no one there.
Yeah.
Suddenly, there's a guy there who knocks the wide receiver unconscious.
What?
So, in any other level of football, he would have been thrown out of the game twice.
Of course.
Right? Because he came off the sidelines to make a tackle. All right? So that happened. But the officials are so bad, they don't see any of that. They don't see that he's not on the field. They don't see he makes a helmet-to-helmet, or there's no rule about that, whatever. Well, all of a sudden, then one of the guys comes walking in the trailer and says, well, I just got off the phone with so-and-so, and he said because there were only 10 players on the field, he is allowed to come off during the play, or come on during the play and make that tackle like that.
That doesn't seem right.
And I went, who in the world did you just talk to? And he looks at me, dead in the eyes, and he goes, the commissioner of the Mississippi Association of Independent Schools. And I went, That is unbelievable.
Wow.
And yeah, so there you go. So
Wow.
there's my story about how bad the officials actually are in the private schools.
You know, I'll be honest.
There you go.
They're not much worse than what we saw tonight.
Definitely
If
not.
I'm being honest.
If I'm being honest.
There was some bad stuff. And exactly what you were talking about, Craig, in 40 Minutes of Hell, how officials just really, really badly want to be in control.
Oh, didn't they tonight, though? Anytime, I mentioned it several times, anytime the crowd was getting into it or there were starting to be momentum shifts, it's like the officials couldn't stand it and they would just like say, you know, blow that whistle, I'll have none of that,
Yep.
and take over.
None of it.
Yeah.
And really made some questionable calls.
Again, if you, I'm about to make a reference. In order to get this reference, you can listen to our other podcast. But again, like, no, I want to tell refs, no matter how hard you blow that whistle, no matter how passionate you are with your arms and your weird gestures and your loving to call offensive the other direction or whatever
Yep.
they do with the pointing up the finger, no matter how hard you do that, no matter how hard you act, your dad still doesn't love you.
There you go.
He doesn't love you. And you need to understand that reference. Go ahead and listen to 40 minutes.
Go work that out in therapy.
Yeah.
Okay? Go work that out in therapy. Go see Craig and Rowe.
Yeah.
40 Minutes of Hell.
Don't do
Same
that
time
again.
next week. I mean, all of this. Like, do you guys want to plug your actual like counseling business now and like just get people to tune?
LifeWorksMS.com.
You guys, you need
Rose
to become,
windshield wipers.
Rose windshield wipers.
You guys need to become like the Fraser Crane of podcasting.
I don't
do-
understand that reference. Can
Oh
you-
my god!
You didn't watch Frasier?
I haven't. No.
What's wrong with you?
Get out of the car, Ro.
Mr. Rowe's driving, by the way.
We're done here. All right, that's good.
Frasier's
Yeah.
too smart for me. This is too smart.
All right, we're gonna. Out of sheer disappointment with Ro, we're gonna end this episode.
I
of
had
Weekly
to bring.
Vessel.
We're so hopeful about basketball, though. We don't sound like pests. We sound like realists right now.
Yeah.
So I have to bring us back down.
That's
all right?
true. That's so true. We would not be Mississippi State fans if we stayed very positive for very long.
Yeah.
So you're right. My bad.
Yeah.
But still.
So I'm back in the car.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Damn it. Oh,
Did you ever even watch Cheers? But
I
you
did. I know I did. Yeah.
You didn't watch Frasier?
No.
Frasier had a dog like Rocco.
I mean, like
Whatever.
Frasier-
Doesn't matter.
Kelsey Grammer. He was so.
Good at everything he did. I know. I get it. I totally get it. There's the Weekly Pessimist on
Right on.
ROTC. Stay tuned. Young Sheldon's next.
Young Sheldon.